This is the true story of a mafia boss who fled to America to escape being extradited to Italy. But when he arrived in the US, he realized that the mafia had already infiltrated American society, and now someone was after him. This is the incredible tale of Santo Trafficante Jr. Our story begins in the 1950s in Sicily, where a young boy named Santo Trafficante was living the good life. His father owned and operated a popular restaurant in town, and everyone loved Santo Jr. for his kind heart and helping hand. That was until Santo turned 18 years old and decided to join the Italian mafia. From that moment on, people started getting nervous around Santo because he was a member of one of the most ruthless organizations in the world. Now, if you're not familiar with the inner workings of the mafia, it's best that I explain this right away so that we can all be on the same page. So basically, the mafia is an organized crime syndicate that originated in Italy, and yes, they are very real. And they've been involved in some pretty nasty stuff over the years, like gambling, loan sharking, extortion, drug trafficking, and murder. If you don't know about the Sicilian mafia specifically, well then you're missing out, because these guys were the OG gangsters. They've been around since the 1800s, and they got their start by protecting travelers along dangerous roads in Sicily. Of course, they did this for a fee, and if you didn't pay up, they weren't afraid to get a little violent. But over time, the Sicilian mafia expanded their operations to include things like extortion, kidnapping, and of course, murder. Now today they're still active, but their activities have mostly shifted to drug trafficking and money laundering. Anyway, back to our story. As we said, Santo was a member of the Sicilian mafia, and he rose through the ranks quickly. In fact, by the time he was 25, he was already a capo regime, which means he was in charge of his own crew of soldiers. But Santo wasn't satisfied with just being a made man in the mafia. He wanted more power, more money, and most importantly, more respect. So he started planning his next move. And at the same time, the Italian government was planning something of their own. Basically, they were fed up with the mafia and all of their crimes, and they decided that enough was enough. They launched a massive crackdown on the organization and started arresting top members left and right. This created a power vacuum in the mafia, and Santo saw his chance to rise to the top. He betrayed his own people and turned informant for the Italian government in exchange for immunity from prosecution and a hefty payout. This allowed him to flee to America and start a new life under the Witness Protection Program. But Santo had no idea what was in store for him. He arrived in New York City in 1960, and everything seemed fine at first. He found a new identity and a new life, and no one from the mafia seemed to be looking for him. However, Santo soon learned that the mafia had infiltrated American society long ago, and they were everywhere. It didn't matter where he went or what he did. Couldn't escape the clutches of the mafia. In fact, it didn't take long for them to find him. One day, while walking down the street, he was approached by a mysterious man in a suit. The man introduced himself as a representative of the Genovese crime family and told Santo that he needed to come with him. At first, Santo tried to resist, but he knew that it was futile. These guys were professionals, and they weren't taking no for an answer. So he went with them willingly and got taken to a small apartment in Little Italy. There he met with the boss of the Genovese crime family, and they offered him a deal. Basically, they wanted him to work for them and become a made man in the American mafia. They promised him power, money, and respect, but he refused. Santo was loyal to the Italian government, and he wasn't about to switch sides. The mafia boss got angry and threatened to kill Santo if he didn't agree to work with them, but Santo stood his ground and refused to back down. So the mafia boss made an example out of him and let his men beat him up right in front of him. After that, they left him alone in the apartment with a message that if he didn't agree to work with them, they would kill him and his family. Well, that was a tough choice. On one hand, he had the chance to make a lot of money and live a luxurious life as a made man in the American mafia. On the other hand, he had the chance to continue working with the Italian government and bring down the mafia from within. But in the end, he chose to stand up for what he believed in and continued working with the Italians. After that, the mafia tried everything to get Santo to agree to work with them. They sent hitmen after him. They threatened his family and even tried to bribe him, but nothing worked. Santo was determined to bring down the mafia, and he wasn't going to let them intimidate him. The Italian government was grateful for Santo's help, and he was able to live a comfortable life under the Witness Protection Program. received regular payments from the government, and was given new documents that proved he was a natural-born citizen. Plus, he never had to worry about being arrested or extradited to Italy, because the U.S. government was protecting him at all costs. However, Santo was restless and wanted more than just a life of luxury. He wanted to make a difference in the world and actually help people. So he began working with various charities and community organizations and used his wealth to help those in need. He also became a mentor to young people and taught them the importance of education and hard work. But Santo's past always caught up with him, and there were times when the mafia tried to strike back. For example, once while he was driving home from a charity event, he was almost hit by a car that came out of nowhere. And when he turned around to see who was driving, he recognized one of the guys from the Genovese crime family. Of course, the driver denied trying to hit him and claimed that it was just a coincidence, but Santo wasn't buying it. He knew that the mafia was still after him, and he had to be on guard at all times. Another time, Santo was at home one night when he heard a loud bang on his front door. He looked out the window and saw a group of masked men trying to break down his door. He immediately called the police and hid in a safe room inside his house. While the cops were on their way, when the police arrived, they found that the men had already left, and they were able to arrest one of them soon after. Turns out, it was another guy from the Genovese crime family, and he confessed. It's being hired to kill Santo. But before he could reveal who hired him, he was silenced, most likely by the higher-ups in the mafia. Throughout his life, Santo faced many dangers and threats from the mafia, but he never backed down. He continued working with the Italian government and the police to bring down the mafia and make the world a safer place. As time passed, Santo grew old and eventually passed away at the age of 82. He was survived by his wife and 3 children who he had to keep hidden away from the mafia. Despite the dangers he faced throughout his life, Santo lived a happy and fulfilling life. He was respected by the police and the Italian government, and he knew that he had made a difference in the world. Santo's story is a reminder that even the most powerful organizations can be brought down by one man's courage and determination. He was willing to risk his life to stand up for what he believed in, and he never backed down in the face of danger. He is a true hero, and his legacy will live on forever. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. And if you want to learn more about the mafia, I highly recommend checking out some books on the subject. There are some great resources out there that can teach you all about the inner workings of this notorious organization. Until next time, stay safe and don't forget to stand up for what you believe in, no matter how dangerous it may seem.